Hi, Jim. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Jim, I know your official position is not the condo guy, but that's what I call you, the condo guy. What is your official position over at Supreme?
Hi, Lynn. Thank you for having me. I'm the director of underwriting for the
Mhm.
project review office. And so
That
what that
sounds more
means
official.
is, yep, that's the official title.
And you're so helpful. And we appreciate you so much because you've helped us in so many situations where we needed a better understanding of how to get condos approved. And as you know, in Florida, we're the condo capital of the world, and we have a lot of condo opportunities here. What I hear a lot from agents say is, they're complicated. I'd rather just not do them. And it's 50% of our market. And I don't want agents to feel that way. So I wanted to interview you and get your feedback on how to successfully finance condos so that we can have agents have access to all of the properties here in Florida. So one of the starting questions really is if you were an agent, you were working out in the market as a listing agent, or if you were on the buy side and you were looking from a buyer's agent, what would be the things that you would want to get as soon as possible so that you knew there would be no wasted time or wasted money on the buyer side?
Well, that's an important question, and actually it takes several different approaches. The first approach, and I'm not trying to plug in here for
Mhm.
Supreme Lending, but pair up with the lender.
Mhm.
As soon as you have a listing for a condo, or you have a buyer which a condo fits their lifestyle, send your letter the address and the condo project name as soon
Mhm.
as possible
Mhm.
because they have access to databases within their bank or their mortgage business, and someone like you would get that address and project name from the realtor and send it to me, and I'll look up on Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, and VA's database and come back to you and say, oh, this is a good condo, or we have nothing on it, or even more better to know that it's a bad condo with red flags.
Mhm.
So the first thing as a realtor, pair up with the lender with a good condo team. I'm not talking about, oh, we have a subject matter expert as an underwriter. We have one person that does it. No, a team. We're talking more than two or three people.
Mhm.
It'll save you a lot of heartache. The second thing is call the HOA. And that's what I would do as a listing agent or a buyer's agent. Because the seller of a condo really doesn't know all the ins and outs. And you don't want to make your client feel uncomfortable. So the
Mhm.
best thing to do is get that HOA number from the listing agent, call the HOA, excuse me, from the seller, and the listing agent calls the HOA and just ask them a few questions.
Mhm.
Number one, is there any issues with the HOA's master policy insurance?
Mhm.
Okay. Insurance is a big deal in Florida right now, and there's a lot of cutting corners and so forth. And for all issues that have been, red flagging condos, insurance is the big one. So ask the HOA, and then I would grab the master policy.
Mhm.
Okay. And again, team up with your lender and give that master policy to your lender. And they can look over it and make sure there's no issues. That's the number one killer of condo eligibility with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac today in
Mhm.
Florida. All right.
Mhm.
The second thing is ask the HOA if they're doing any major repairs. And if they say, no, not really, this is something we do in routine, or it was at the end of its life and so forth. Now, if they come back and said, yes, we didn't pass our inspection, or we've been cited by the city as code violation, huge red flag.
Mhm.
Immediately get with your lender. Yes,
Mhm.
that's almost like running with a flat tire in the car. You got to pull over and change that tire. And in this case, if you're a listing agent, you really need to know what's going on to set expectations and timelines. If your condo is red flag for code violation or inspection failure, that's going to draw out your days on market for that condo.
Mhm.
And it's very possible. Now,
Mhm.
if you get all the material and everything that's needed for a lender to approve that condo, even with that situation happening, then you can really fit that within 20 to 30-day closing.
Mhm.
But if you ignore it, it's going to really draw it out. So
Mhm.
once again, your insurance, any code violations, any inspection failures.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's a big
Those
deal.
are the two big things in Florida. And you're correct, Lynn. Florida's condos, this is by the Real Estate Commission, Florida, they appreciate just in the same momentum as single family homes. In fact, in places like Miami, condos appreciate higher than single family homes. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and we want to give our agents the tools to be able to run toward that market. It's such a big part of our market. I think, back in 2009, when loan officers were even running away from the condo market, we found a way to make it work. And it was very, very lucrative for the bank because we knew how to do it. But also we put a lot of people in their homes because we just understood how to finance them rather than running away from them. And there's such a great opportunity with so much inventory opportunity out there. Okay, so what about when we're talking, what is the big difference between Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Because, for example, we had one condo out here that was on the Fannie Mae do not lend list, but we were able to get it financed through Freddie Mac because we were able to show that all the repairs were complete and Fannie Mae hadn't taken it off their list yet, even though we had made the effort to have that happen. So what is the big difference? Any big key factors between Fannie and Freddie that we need to know that we can, when we're looking at a condo, the difference between the two, or are they pretty much the same?
Well, they're going to be pretty much the same. In that case, Freddie Mac had a little bit more documentation than Fannie Mae did.
Mhm.
So we went ahead and went the Freddie Mac route. And the other nuances, like for instance, Freddie Mac is a little bit more flexible when it comes to condos in resort areas or condotels, so to speak. Whereas Fannie Mae will stop a resort condo just because it's listed on booking.com or something. Not the HOA listed, but let's say a unit owner listed it. Fannie Mae would frown upon that and then decline the whole project. So there are nuances between the two agencies. So again, really important to pair up with the lender that knows those nuances.
Yes.
I cannot stress the importance of bringing it forward as soon as you get that listing, or if you have a buyer that's interested in a condo. 34% of millennials live in a condo right now, or that's their preference. Yeah, and that's the national average. Of course, that's probably exponentially higher in Florida.
Sure. It's also more affordable right now for affordability reasons. Condos we can still tend to be a little more affordable. Well, now with this new state regulation, with the reserve study being required and also the structural integrity report being required based on the age of the property. Anything you want to share regarding that? I know we're getting towards the end of the 2024 year. It's supposed to be in place by the 2025 beginning of the year. I know most condos have kind of gone through it, but some condos are still in the wind. What happens in that situation if they haven't been able to get their structural integrity report done or their reserve study on time?
Well, and that's a good question. If you're listing or buying into a condo, you want to ask that of the HOA. That goes back to one of those questions, is the HOA doing any repairs right now? Are they doing repairs according to inspection, or is it just routine repairs? If the condo is saying that we haven't done any repairs, we haven't done our inspection, then that is something that you might want to take into consideration when you bring in a buyer into a condo. So if you had the choice to choose a condo that's had their inspection and those reserves, I would choose that one, even though maybe it was quite a bit. We've seen some condos delay repairing or renovating their balconies, and they're just now getting to it. And they had a huge special assessment of $20,000-$30,000 per unit. But if that's already in place and they're wrapping it up or they're in the middle of it, that's a better condo than, say, a similar condo, similar age, that hasn't done an inspection report. Because you're at the beginning of that. And as a buyer's agent, you might be putting your client into a situation which they're going to see a 20, 30, even $40,000 special assessment ahead of time. So
Yes.
again, that is, your sales agent doing their research with the HOA and asking those 4 questions are very important.
Yeah, very important. Now, as when it comes to Fannie and Freddie, do they have a specific rule as far as when there is an assessment on the property that the seller has to pay it, or can the buyer pick it up at closing? Is there any specific rule regarding the assessment?
No, there's no specific rule regarding the assessment of how it needs to be paid out. Most lenders like us, we prefer that the special assessment's paid out from the proceeds of the sale. That way, the borrower coming in, that family, doesn't have that added expense into their DTI, right? Because if they're just not going to pay it out, the seller, it's just going to say, hey, you take over the payments. That could happen. But again, you're talking about that special assessment, and you're talking about maybe just a balcony repair. What if they need the HVAC repair? So that might be another special assessment 2 to 3 years down the road. So it's always better, on both sides, really, just to go ahead and complete that special assessment.
Get it done at closing. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, regarding the reserve study, I learned something from you while I was in Dallas. You said that all buildings need to have a reserve study, even those that haven't met the age for the structural integrity report. Is that correct?
I believe that's how I read SD4, Florida's new state statute coming in January 1st of 2025. That is my interpretation. The reserve study is different than the inspection report. Inspection report's only required on 3 stories and above. Okay, whereas the reserve study is required for all. So, that's how I interpret it.
Yes, and most times when we're, depending upon the level of approval, whether we're doing a limited review or a full condo approval, depending upon the buyer's down payment determines what type of, what we need to see financially. So typically when we're looking at a budget, when agents are looking at a budget, we look at budgets often for agents, whether it be on a listing or a buy side, just to make sure that the budget and the master insurance are right. We always ask for those 2 things at least up front. But regarding the budgets and now with the reserve studies, is there any leniency coming? Because I know they always requested 10% of the revenue coming in, minus obviously any utilities that they're paying on behalf of the homeowner. But is there, with the reserve study requirement now, I know in the past we've asked if we were a little short on reserves, we've asked for a reserve study to see what are we looking for in the reserve study to eliminate that, or to help with the 10% requirement, the 10% reserve requirement.
Well, the good news about this is that Fannie and Freddie is not requiring a reserve study in Florida, even though the state statutes of Florida are. But Fannie and Freddie just say if there's a reserve study, that lenders are required to review it.
Okay.
But it's not something that's mandated from Fannie and Freddie that all condos have one. If they do, we need it. If not, then we're not requiring it. So now the other thing about this is whenever a reserve study come out, a reserve study is when an engineer group or kind of a appraisal group come in, look at all the capital items like a boiler or a chiller or the elevator or balconies, and they look at the condition of the balconies. And they say, okay, a balcony should last 20 years, and you have probably 5 years remaining of life, right? And this is how much you need to put away each month or each year so you can replace that major item. So that reserve study tells HOAs how much they need to put away each year. So when that item comes up to being replaced, they have that in the bank, right? So, for example, I have 100 balconies. I have 5 years left. Let's say it costs $100,000 to replace them. So the reserve study says, "Oh, okay, you have 3 years left. It costs $100,000 to replace them. You need to put $33,000 away each year." Now, overall, the recommended payment or contribution to the reserves is going to be a lot higher than 10%. I have yet to see a reserve study that asks for an annual contribution to reserves less than 10%.
Yeah.
So in essence, if everybody's trying to follow the reserve study, it's going to be way more than 10%, Lynn.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting
Yeah.
because when we think about single family homes, people think, oh, condos, assessments. But when you own a home, you have to fix it over time, whether it be the roof or, you have to put in windows or whatever you have to do to your home. You paint it, you do things to keep up with your home. So they look at assessments. Oh, they don't want assessments. Buyers are a little nervous about that. But in any home that you own, there's things you have to do over time. I feel like with the reserve study, once it's all settled down, it's going to create such a healthy environment for the condo market because it's been such a fear for condo buyers to have to get an assessment. And now that will be not eliminated, but it'll be less likely when everything is in the reserve study and they're reserving for it on a monthly basis. It's the same thing as upkeeping on a single family home. They have to maintain the building and they're going to be able to pay it over time rather than having these larger assessments come. So I feel like in the long run, it's going to really normalize the condo market and eliminate that fear of these large assessments coming.
You're right. Florida is doing it right. They really are. You're going to go through a 2 to 3 year transition period from now to 2028. But at the end, when you buy a home, you don't think about how much the air conditioning unit's going to cost to be replaced in 15, 20 years. Or, if you're buying an older home, what about the sewer lines and things of that nature, foundation shift. Unfortunately, Florida is being hit with some storms, and my heart goes out to everybody that's affected by the recent storm, Helene. And but with a condo, it does affect the condo building just like a regular home, but condos are built a lot more sturdier. They have to have a lot higher pressure in their concrete and the footings. If you live in the second, third floor, you're going to stay dry. It's a good thing about condos. First floor, a lot of first floors are mainly lobby or some are garage. So they hit your cars in garage, but that first floor of residential is 14 feet high, from the street. So they're safe.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of pluses there. But going back to the reserves, yes, you are correct. When we're past this moment in time, in 25, 26, and 28, those condos in Florida are going to be set. Whereas people still in homes, they don't think about, okay, how much does it cost to replace my windows, things of that nature, my roof, that has a 4% deductible, which in most cases it's 10, 15, about 10,000. So no, there's a lot of benefits to owning a condo.
There are, yeah. And that's why I feel like it's so important to, educate ourselves and learn how to properly finance them and purchase them, list or buy side, because there's so much opportunity there. And they really do make great homes for buyers. So we want to have the information. Anything else you think is pressing that an agent should know or a buyer should know when they're looking into the condo market? Anything else come across your desk that you think we should know about?
Just when I'm going to go back, just reaching out to the HOA and then having a good lender partner are two key factors to a successful condo transaction. We have many condo transactions that close within 15 days. They do. And that's because that condo has been researched by the selling agent. They've reached out to one of our lender partners, and loan officer like you, vetted, their condo just to make sure there was nothing wrong with it. And then took the advice of what we say, not only vet the condo, not only reach out to the HOA, but grab those condo documents as soon as possible. Even if you're on the seller side, get a condo questionnaire, get the budget, get the master insurance policy. That way, when you do have a buyer walking in, you have all those documents to hand over to your buyer's agent. And
Mhm.
that buyer will turn around the next day, guarantee you, they will, and give it to their loan officer or
Mhm.
lender partner.
Mhm.
And that's how we're able to close condos within, record speed, they say.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, Jim, you have single-handedly helped so many of our buyers into condos because of your knowledge and understanding of it all. And you've been such a huge help and impact to our agent partners. So I wanted them to get to know you because you're like the Oz, behind the curtain that's kind of getting it all done. But we just so appreciate you because without you and your knowledge, a lot of our buyers wouldn't have had that opportunity. And they've been great investments. So when I met with you over in Dallas, you had mentioned that there's 5 things. Just to recap on those things, we want to make sure that that we get a copy of the budget, we get a copy of the master policy, we understand if there's any critical repairs, that there's any litigations, and the reserve study. So just understand, oh, actually assessments, not the reserve study, knowing if there's any assessments. So just understanding what's going on with the condo gives you a better understanding of how to list it, how to buy it, how to protect your buyers. And Jim, we can't thank you enough. Jim Mahalik, we so appreciate you and everything you do for us.
Thank you, Lynn. Let me know if there's anything else I can help with you.
We appreciate you. Have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right.
All right.
People, in order to get that property back up